Hello, everybody. It's Austin here, or Luna. Hope you guys are having a wonderful Thursday so far. So I woke up today and I realized something. It's October, and I haven't told a single scary story. What the hell is wrong with me, dude? I was in Discord the other day. By the way, if you're not in my Discord, check that out in the description. But I was in Discord, and I was in the general chat, just talking to some subscribers in VC, some of you awesome people. And somebody asked me if I was planning on doing a long, Halloween special story time for Halloween. And at first, I wasn't really planning on it, but I'm going to do that. But I also want to tell some other ones too, because, Halloween's around the corner, and I don't want to just celebrate Halloween on Halloween. I want to do some spooky stuff before it too. So I'm going to tell a scary story today. I'll probably tell one or two of those, and then I'll do a Halloween special on Halloween itself. And this one's pretty long, pretty spooky, pretty crazy, so the Halloween special is going to be even crazier. But yeah, guys, hope you enjoy this story time. If you do, leave a like on the video, and let's get into it. So today's story time all starts off back in 2015. Now, 2015... okay year. I was pretty young. My YouTube was starting to pop off a little bit. That was nice. My dream was coming true. But other than that, I can't lie. I was definitely the most rebellious I'd probably been. I was definitely the most, misbehaved. And definitely I was the most, emotional, I would say. 2015 and 2016, I don't know what it was. I think it was just the fact that I was a teenager and, still kind of growing up. I was just very emotional. If I got into an argument with somebody or some sort of disagreement, I get super heated or really, really upset about it, right? And back then, I've talked about it, but I used to run away a lot, right? I used to get in arguments with my parents and my family. Instead of doing the right thing and talking it out with them and just getting through it, I would just run away because I didn't want to deal with it, right? I was like, oh, fuck it, I'm just going to leave. Now, obviously, don't do that, okay? I say it every time I talk about this, but do not do that, okay? Don't run away from your home. It's not safe. I don't want to see any of you guys get in any situations like that. But yeah. Anyway, that's what I used to do. Now, in 2015, I would spend most of my days just either going to school or making videos. Not a lot different than what I do now, minus the school thing. So this starts off like any other day back then. I got up out of bed. It was 6 in the morning. I got ready for school, went to school. I get there. I get through most of the school day. Lunchtime rolls around. I go to lunch. And while I'm in the cafeteria eating lunch with my friends at my table, my homie Brian that was sitting next to me, he looked over at me and he's like, yo, what are you doing after school today? And I was like, nothing. What about you? He's like, you want to chill? I'm like, bet. I'm down. He's like, all right, cool. You want to come to my house or me come to yours? I was like, why don't you come to mine? He's like, all right, bet. Sounds good. So that was cool. We had plans to hang out. That was going to be dope, right? So anyway, fast forward to the end of the school day. I get home from school. And back then, my mom would work pretty late every day. She wasn't usually home when I get home from school. She didn't get home till 9 p.m. every day. So I just texted her and I was like, hey, I'm having Brian come over. Is that cool? To which she replied and said, no. And I was like, what? And she was like, yeah, no, you're not allowed to have anybody over. You were supposed to clean the other night. You didn't clean. And she basically told me, because I didn't clean my room and the basement, that I wasn't allowed to have friends over that day. Now, I didn't even remember her telling me to clean, and that's the 100% truth. So I told her that. I was like, Mom, I do not remember you telling me to clean. If you did, I'm sorry if I forgot. But I can clean right now, and then he can come over if that's okay. To which she replied and said, sure, you can clean, but he's not coming over. So I was pretty upset, right? And me being the rebellious, kind of just misbehaving kid that I was, I thought, you know what? I'm having Brian come over anyway. My mom's at work. She won't know. As long as he leaves before 9, she's not going to find out. So I had him over. I told Brian to come over. 20 minutes later, he was at my house, and we were in my room playing some Xbox, hanging out, chilling. We ordered a pizza, had some pizza, and life was good, right? Life was great. Well, as many of you know, whenever I think things are going fine, they usually end up not going fine. So later that night at about 7:30 p.m., I get a text from my mom saying, hey, you having fun with Brian? Now, I had no idea how she knew he was there. We'd been in my room the whole day. She wasn't home. I don't know what the hell was going on, right? I thought for a second my room was bugged. I thought she could hear us or some shit on a speaker. So I replied to her and I was like, what do you mean? I'm home alone. Because dude, me and Brian were the only ones home. My brothers were either at school or work. Nobody was at my house besides me and Brian. So I don't know how she knew he was there, right? So I said I was home alone. And she responds and she goes, stop that bullshit. I know you're not home alone. Tell me the truth. And I kept lying, which I'm not proud of. Don't lie to your parents, obviously. But I kept lying. I was like, oh, I don't know what you're talking about. It's just me. I'm playing Xbox. I already cleaned. I was just full of shit, right? And my mom responds and goes, really? Then whose bike is this? And she sends me a fucking photo of Brian's bike parked out front in my driveway, his bicycle. And I was like, oh shit. So my dumbass didn't learn anything, and I was trying to lie my way out of it. I respond, and I was like, no, like, he's not here right now. He just stopped by. I had to give him something for school tomorrow. And I was just lying to her, right? To which she responds and says, stop lying. I had my friend drive by just now, and the bike was there. So I know he's still there. I know he's in the room with you right now. Tell me the truth. And guys, I was caught red-handed. Like, she literally had a friend drive by, like, on some detective shit to see who was parked in the driveway and saw his bike there. So, like, I had to just tell the truth. I was like, okay, fine. You caught me. Yeah, I snuck him over. I didn't think you would know. I'm sorry. To which she responds and obviously grounds me because I lied to her and I went behind her back and did the one thing she told me not to do, which was have Brian over. So, yeah, I was in big trouble, you could say, right? And now I'm mad. I'm mad for a few reasons. One, because I got caught. I was pissed off. Two, I was pissed that I was grounded. Three, I was pissed that Brian had to leave because she was telling me to send him home. So I told Brian, all right, man, you got to go. Like, if she sees your bike parked out front any longer, then I'm going to get in more trouble. So Brian got his stuff and he left, right? And now I'm just mad. I'm alone. I'm in my room. I'm enjoying the final hours I have of my Xbox because I knew that she'd come home and take it soon. It was pretty shitty, right? I felt pretty shitty. But at the same time, that's just why you shouldn't lie. But anyway, yeah, I'm sitting there in my room pissed off, right? And I come up with this terrible plan, this terrible idea, where I'm like, you know what? I'm going to run away for the night. I'm going to just like text some friends, see if someone can let me crash on their couch. I'm just going to go sleep at someone else's house tonight without telling anybody. Don't do that, obviously. But I opened up my contacts on my phone. I start texting friends of mine at the time that I was close with, basically saying like, hey, I got into an argument with my mom. I'm not trying to sleep at my house tonight. I'm just like annoyed. Can I sleep at your house? And I texted like 5 of my friends that, 5 of my closest friends at the time. And very quickly, within like 2 minutes, one of my friends texted back. The first one to text back, we'll just call him Joey. Joey texted back and was like, yeah, man, sure. My parents were cool with it. He was one of the only friends I had that had parents that were okay with him having sleepovers on school nights. I met many people throughout school, and I never met a single person besides Joey that had parents that chill. They would let people sleep over on school nights as long as your parents were cool with it. And then the next morning, they would take you both to school. So that was pretty crazy. So yeah, like 5 minutes later, I packed up my stuff, jumped on my bike, and I rode over to Joey's house. Now, upon arriving there, I went inside. Joey's parents were making dinner. They saw me. They said hello. Joey's dad walked up to me, and he was like, hey, man, how you been? And I was like, good. He's like, is your mom cool with you sleeping over tonight? I was like, yeah. I lied to him. I feel bad. He was a nice guy. I shouldn't have lied. But I lied to him, unfortunately. He's like, all right, cool. Well, we're making dinner. Like, I hope you're hungry. And I'm like, yeah, man, I am. And it was great, man. Joey's parents, they were such good cooks, dude. Oh my gosh, that shit was so good. We had fucking steak. So good. Anyway, after that, I sit down on the couch with Joey and his family. We're watching some TV. And like an hour or two later, my mom got home from work and she realized I wasn't home. And that's when I started to get calls and text messages. First, my mom called me at like 9:10, 9:30 or something. And then I ignored it. Then she texted me and was like, where are you? Then she texted me again and said, Austin, answer the phone. And then she called me. And then she texted me again and said, Austin, pick up. And then she called me again. And before I knew it, I had like 6 or 7 missed calls. Jesus. Before I knew it, I had a lot of missed calls and a lot of text messages. And I was just ignoring her, right? And I felt pretty bad about that. And I also thought like, you know, I don't want my mom to think that I'm like kidnapped or like, you know, in danger. So I texted her back finally. And I was like, hey, just so you know, I'm safe. I'm staying at a friend's tonight. I'll come home tomorrow. To which she responds and goes, no, you'll come home right now. You do not have my permission to sleep at someone's house tonight. Get home now. To which I respond and I say, no, I'm staying at my friend's tonight. Sorry. To which she responds and goes, absolutely not. Get home now or you're grounded for 2 more months. So I had a choice here. I either spend 1 night at my friend's and get 2 more months of grounding, or I go home right then and there and I don't get grounded, at least not for any longer than I already was. And obviously the smart thing to do would be to go home, right? And not get grounded more. But I chose option 1. I chose to stay at Joey's house and play my Xbox and hang out with Joey and sleep at his house for that 1 night of fun in exchange for months of grounding. If that doesn't explain how stupid I was as a kid, I don't know what does. But yeah, I did that because that's just what my brain was telling me to do at the time. And I went back to ignoring my mom and not listening to her. and just went back to enjoying my night hanging out at Joey's house, right? Now, like an hour or two later, Joey's parents go to bed and they leave me and Joey in the living room and tell us to, go to sleep at a decent hour because we have school tomorrow, obviously. And after that, I thought, I'd have a nice chill night and that'd be it, right? Well, like 30 minutes later, Joey goes upstairs to grab something out of his bedroom. I think he was grabbing his phone charger or something. And I start to hear voices upstairs. I start to hear both of his parents and him talking. And like at first, it sounds like a very normal conversation. I can't hear what they're talking about because like it's upstairs and like there's walls in the way and stuff. But it just sounds like regular talking volume, right? Well, then all of a sudden, the talking volume kind of turns into like a loud talking volume. It sounds like they're all kind of loudly talking at each other. And then it turns into like a yelling volume. It sounds like Joey's yelling at his parents. And then I hear like one of them yelling back, the dad to be specific. And I can tell pretty quickly, oh shit, they're arguing. Joey's arguing with his parents about something. And I'm kind of trying to listen in because they're yelling now and it's kind of easier to hear them. And I quickly realize what they're arguing about. Joey was arguing with his dad because his dad found a bowl of cereal underneath his bed that had been like rotting there for like weeks. I guess he like went up there, like had cereal one day and like forgot about it under his bed and it had been like rotting away and got all moldy. And his dad was like pissed off at him for leaving a, dirty bowl under his bed. And Joey was like yelling back, being like, can we not do this right now? Like, I have my friend here. I just want to like chill tonight. I just want to have a good night. Like, you can yell at me tomorrow. You can ground me tomorrow, whatever you want to do. And Joey was trying to like, kind of trying to brush them off and be like, yo, like, let's do this tomorrow. And Joey's dad didn't like that, and he was getting him angrier. And then I heard Joey's dad say that if he keeps mouthing back to him, he's going to send me home. Basically saying if Joey didn't drop the attitude, I'd be going back home. So yeah, I was hoping that Joey would just shut up soon and come back downstairs because the more and more he talked back to them, the more and more, I risked being sent home. And they keep arguing for a good like 5 minutes. And finally, I hear Joey's dad go, that's it. Your friend's going home. I'm taking him home right now. And I hear Joey like immediately start to backpedal. He's like, no, dad, like, I'm sorry. And he goes, no, like I'm taking him home. And I start to hear him come downstairs, his dad. And then I hear Joey following, being like, dad, please, no. And Joey's dad comes downstairs. He turns the corner. He looks at me. He goes, hey, Austin, I'm sorry, but my son, he's misbehaving. I'm not letting him have people over tonight. I'm taking you home right now. And I thought that was it. I thought it was over. I was like, all right, I guess I'll go home. And I started getting up and putting my shoes on. And Joey walks over to me and he goes, nah, fuck that. We're out of here. And he puts his shoes on, Joey does, and he opens the door and he walks out. And once again, I'm faced with two choices. I either follow Joey into the darkness of the outside and run away with him, or I get in Joey's dad's car and I drive back to my house and not get grounded for 2 more months and sleep in my own bed that night. Once again, my dumbass, my absolute just genius brain chose option 1. I decided to walk out of that house with Joey and leave and just run away with him, right? Just no plan, just walking into the night, me and him, that's it, right? That's what I chose. I swear, man, I had a fucking walnut for a brain back then. Just an absolute walnut. Anyway, yeah, I walked out of the house with him. We're walking away down his driveway. His dad's yelling from the doorway, like, get back here, turn around, get back here. And we're just walking away, right? I had my backpack on because I grabbed it from the front door and we're walking away. Joey had nothing, by the way. He was in his pajamas and he had nothing with him besides his phone that was like dying. So we walked down his street, and once we get off his street, I look over at him because it had been like silent. It was kind of awkward. I was like, yo, Joey, like, what are we doing, man? Like, where are we going? And he's like, I don't know, dude. I'm just mad. I have to calm down. And I'm like, all right, you think we're going to go back to your house? He's like, nah, bro, I'm out of there for the night. I'm not going back there. So now not only I ran away, but Joey ran away, and we were running away together. And I didn't know what to do, man. Like I said, we had no plan. And we ended up walking aimlessly for like 30 minutes, right? And I look over at him and I was like, bro, we should probably like find somewhere to go because we can't just walk around all night. It's kind of cold out. I'm not trying to freeze my ass off tonight, And he's like, all right, you want to go to the corner store? I was like, bet. So we went to this like gas station, convenience store thing, like down the street. We hung out in there for like 40 minutes at one of the tables that they had in there and just like ate chips and just sat there. I bought us both chips and like drinks. And after like 40 minutes, we had to come up with a different plan because we can't stay in the convenience store all night because I've tried that in the past and it just does not work. They just kick you out. So I didn't know what to do. Well, then Joey comes up with an absolute genius idea. And by genius, I mean fucking stupid idea. He goes, yo, how about that abandoned house? And I was like, what abandoned house? He's like, the one on this street. And he says the street name. And it clicks what he's talking about, right? He's talking about this house that's been abandoned for at least a decade or two, right? That me and my friends and Joey used to sneak into after school and like hang out in for like 20 minutes at a time, right? And every time we'd hang out in that house, it would creep me out. It was super sketchy. I didn't like being in there in the day. So the idea of spending the night in that house was very scary to me and not smart. So I look over at Joey and I was like, bro, I don't think that's a good idea at all. He's like, bro, why not? Like, where else are we going to go? I was like, dude, that place is sketchy. I hated being there in the day. Even with a group of people, it would freak me out. Spending the night in there with just us, that sounds terrifying. He's like, bro, it's safe. No one knows about it. I was like, bro, what are you talking about? Nobody knows about it. Like, we know about it, which means other people probably know about it. He's like, dude, I've never seen anybody in there but us. I'm like, dog, come on. He's like, I'm telling you, bro, it'll be fine. Let's just go check it out. And I was like, all right, we can check it out. But if it's creepy at all, I'm not staying there that night. We're leaving. He's like, all right, fine. So we set off from the convenience store, walking to this abandoned house. And I wasn't even at the house yet, and I was already sketched out. I was sketched out at the thought of this. Like, I did not want to spend the night in some creepy abandoned house. But at the same time, in my brain, I thought, oh, well, I've already like made my bed. I have to sleep in it, you know? Which was not the case. I could have easily turned around at this point, went back to Joey's house, grabbed my bike that I left there, and rode it back to my mom's. But I chose to go with him to this creepy abandoned house because, once again, my walnut brain was not computing the idea that I had an option to go home. So, yeah, me and Joey proceeded to walk to this abandoned house. It was like a 30-minute walk. We get there. We're both cold as shit. It's cold outside. It's nighttime. And we crawl in through one of the windows into this abandoned house. And upon getting into this abandoned house, guess what? It was fucking creepy. It was sketchy. And we didn't have any flashlights. I only had the flashlight on my phone and Joey's phone, which his phone was about to die. So he didn't want to use his. He wanted to conserve battery. So I just used my phone. And we explored the house, made sure nobody was in there. And that was good at least. No one was in there. We like did a whole search. No one was in there but us. And we decided like, okay, we'll hang out in here until we're either too sketched out to be here anymore or until it's daytime. So yeah, we went upstairs. We went into one of like the bedroom rooms or whatever. And we sat down on one of like the old like rotted out dressers that was on the ground. And we're just sitting there. And it's wet. It's cold. Everything in there is just gross. It smells like rotting wood and mold and depression. It was not fun. And we're in there for like an hour just talking to each other because we literally had nothing else to do. It's not like this house had power. I couldn't plug in my Xbox, you know what I mean? Like couldn't put it on a TV. So we're just sitting in this dark room. Only light we had was my phone, which was like half battery. And we're talking. And I look over at Joey and I was like, bro, so like realistically, how long do you think we're staying here tonight? He's like, the whole night. I'm like, bro, you think we're going to stay here the whole night and just talk? Like, really? He's like, yeah, bro, why not? I'm like, I don't know. Just because it's sketchy as hell in here and it's cold and boring. Like, above all else, it's just really, really like nothing to do in here. So like, you really want to stay here the whole night? He's like, bro, where else are we going to go? I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, why not back to your house? Like, let's go back there. Maybe you can apologize to your dad and he'll let me stay. He's like, nah, man, fuck that guy. And I was like, all right, man. So we just kind of like sat there for another like 2 hours just talking. And honestly, the next like 2 hours wasn't too bad. We were just talking and we were actually having a pretty good conversation. And things were actually kind of like nice. I kind of forgot the fact that I was in a really creepy abandoned house and, things were going good. And then shit started getting weird. Out of nowhere, mid-conversation, we start hearing footsteps, me and Joey, downstairs. And these were clear as day footsteps. Like it sounded like boots walking on wood. Like someone was downstairs wearing a heavy set of boots walking around, right? We could hear the pattern of walking. And Joey looks over at me and he goes, what the fuck is that? And I was like, bro, I think somebody's downstairs walking. Like, I think someone's in the house. He's like, dude, like, we're fucked. Because we were upstairs in the bedroom. All of the windows were boarded up. So if we tried to like bang out a window, it either one, wouldn't work because they're like nailed in. Or two, if it did work, it'd make a really loud sound and it would send whoever's down there upstairs to investigate and find us. So we're like sitting there trying to think of what to do, right? And Joey looks at me and he's like, yo, we should make a run for it. And I was like, okay. Because I didn't know what else to do, right? Like, obviously the right thing to do in this situation probably would have been to like hide and call the police or something. But I just thought, let's just run. So we ran downstairs, straight through the living room, and jumped out the window on the first floor that we came in from. But here's the weird part. When we ran through the living room, I had my phone flashlight on, and I didn't see anything. And I didn't see anybody in the kitchen either. So, like, I don't know where those footsteps were coming from, right? And I didn't see anybody. So when we got outside, I told Joey that. I was like, yo, I think that nobody's in the house. Like, I didn't see anyone. He's like, bro, like, are you sure? I was like, yeah, because, like, the basement's bolted closed. There's no way they're down there. And the only thing on the first floor is the living room and the kitchen and a bathroom that's also, like, disgusting and you can't even walk in it. So, like, if somebody was down there, we would have seen them on the way out. And he's like, what the fuck? You want to go check it out? And I was like, not really. No, I'm good. And he's like, dude, like, where else are we going to stay, though? Like, we have to do that. And I'm like, no, we don't. We can just stay outside. I'll go to, like, a park or something, sleep on a bench. He's like, bro, it's too cold. I'm like, I don't care. I'd rather freeze to death than go back in that house. He's like, all right, I'm going to check it out. And he starts walking back up to the window and, like, peeking through it. So I follow behind him, and I peek through it. And we don't see anything. And he starts climbing through the window. And I was like, Joey, bro, like, let's just leave, bro. I don't want to go in there. And he's like, dude, I don't think anyone's home. I think we literally just, like, psyched ourselves out. I was like, bro, I don't care. This shit's scary. He's like, bro, just come on. So I climb through the window, and I turn my phone flashlight on, and we start walking around investigating. I felt like I was that character in a horror movie that's going to die first. Like, the way I was investigating a creepy sound in an abandoned house, like, when I had the option to leave, I felt like one of those stupid main characters. And I thought, well, this is it. This is how I'm going to die. There's going to be a headline, like, stupid-ass YouTuber walks back into haunted house. There was secretly a serial killer hiding in there, and they got him. But yeah, me and Joey are walking around investigating. And we walk through the kitchen. Nobody's in there. We walk through the living room. Nobody's in there. We go to that bathroom I was talking about. Nobody's in there. You couldn't really get in there, to be honest. There was a bunch of, like, rotting wood on the floor and, like, too much garbage. You couldn't really walk in there. So nobody was in there, to no surprise. Then we get to the basement door. Now, like I said, the basement door was, like, boarded shut. You couldn't really get in the basement unless you, like, broke a window on the side of the house and crawled through the basement window. But that wasn't broken. So nobody was in there. So, yeah, the house was clear on the first floor. So then we go upstairs because we're like, all right, well, maybe we heard the footsteps on the second floor. We go up there. We go in the bedroom we were in. Nobody's in there. We go in the second bedroom, nobody's in there. Third bedroom, guess what? Nobody's in there. We then checked the upstairs bathrooms. There was one in the hallway. No one was in that one. Nobody was in the master bedroom's bathroom, the closet, nothing. Nobody was in this house, right? And I was like, what the fuck? And, like, to this day, I swear on everything, I heard footsteps. They were clear as day. Like, they were footsteps. It was not just, like, some creepy sound that the old house was making. I've been in a lot of abandoned buildings. I've been in a lot of old houses. I know how they sound. Like, you can hear things that are really, really creepy. But this was obviously the sound of feet walking on wood. The pattern, the timing, the way it was consistent, the way that it was moving, the sound was traveling. You could hear it going from one end of the room to the other. Like, it was obviously somebody walking. But we couldn't find anybody. So me and Joey felt pretty fucking crazy. We're like, okay, we're clearly just paranoid, right? Like, we're paranoid. We're hearing things that aren't there. We're confusing things as footsteps. Like, you know, we're just paranoid. That's what we wrote it off as. And we went back to sitting down on that little, like, rotted wooden dresser and just talking. And now we were pretty creeped out because, you know, we heard something that wasn't there. So, yeah, we were pretty creeped out. Now, fast forward about 30 minutes, me and Joey are hanging out, just sitting there. We're a little bit less creeped out now, and we haven't heard anything since. And all of a sudden, we hear it again, the footsteps. And Joey does some stupid shit. He stands up and immediately starts running downstairs straight towards the sound. And I follow him, trying to stop him. I'm like, yo, don't do that, don't do that. But it was too late. He was already halfway down the stairs, and I had to follow him. And we get down the stairs, and as soon as we're down the stairs, the sound just stops, and nobody's in the living room. And that's where we heard it. It was coming from the middle of the living room. And I look at Joey, and he looks at me, and he's like, yo, what the fuck? And I was like, bro, I don't know. I think we should leave. He's like, bro, but there's nobody in here. It's just like the old house making sounds. We're just getting freaked out. I'm like, bro, I don't think we're just getting freaked out. I think this shit's fucking with us. I think there's something in here fucking with us, like somebody or something, like an animal. He's like, bro, you heard those footsteps. That is not animal footsteps. It sounds like boots. I was like, I know, bro, but like we can't find anybody and I don't want to find anybody. I want to leave. And he's like, all right, fine, let's go. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna get my backpack. So I started heading back up the stairs, go into the room and grab my bag because it was by that bookshelf in that room we were sitting in. And as soon as I walk into that room to grab my backpack, Joey runs in behind me, slams the door, and like grabs me and tells me to shush. And I was like, what? What's wrong? He's like, dude, I heard something down there. Like voices. Like I heard them in the kitchen. I was like, what voices? Like 1, 2, how many? He's like, bro, multiple. I was like, okay, are you sure? He's like, yes, dude, multiple voices. I was like, did you look? He's like, no, I was too scared. So the way this house was laid out, right? You'd go downstairs, and on the left side, there was the living room. On the right side, there was the kitchen. And I was standing like halfway down the stairs. He was standing towards the bottom of the stairs. But there was like a wall there. So he had to like turn his head around the right corner to actually see the kitchen. It was a lot easier to see the living room because there was no wall there. So he could only see the living room from where he was standing. And he claims the voices were in the kitchen where he couldn't see. So, of course, I was like, all right, we need to get the fuck out of here, bro. If you claim that you heard voices and there's multiple people in the kitchen and we're upstairs in this room and the door just got slammed, they heard us. They know we're up here. We need to go. And he's like, all right, on the count of 3, I'm going to swing open the door. We're going to run downstairs and we're out of here. Just like the first time. I'm like, okay. So he counts to 3. He swings open the door. I run out first. I go barreling down those stairs. And on like the 5th step, the stair snaps because it was made out of wood. And I fall down the rest of the stairs, rolling, just fucking hurt myself, dude. That shit hurt so bad. And I remember like while I was rolling down the stairs, just in pain, falling, I thought, wow, this is great. I'm about to fall down these stairs, land on the bottom of the floor, and then I'm going to get beaten up by a bunch of people that are in the house, right? And when I finally hit the floor and I like rolled, I could see the kitchen. And guess what? There was nobody in the fucking kitchen. And I yelled to fucking Joey, and he comes over and he picks me up. And I was like, bro, there's nobody here. And I pointed to the kitchen, and he looks, and he's like, bro, no, I swear, I heard voices. I fucking heard them, bro. There's people in this house. We need to leave. And I was like, okay, bro, let's go. So I get up, and we start walking over to the window very quickly. He climbs out first. And as I'm climbing out, getting out the window, I hear from the other side of the house in the kitchen, a guy's voice scream, just, ah, like doesn't say anything, doesn't say get out, doesn't say fuck off, just, ah. And I was like, what the fuck? And I jumped out that window so fast. And Joey heard it too. And he's like, what the fuck was that? And we start running, just running as fast as we can. And we ran all the way from that house back to that convenience store, that 24-hour like convenience store that we were in earlier. And we both just basically had panic attacks. Like we're freaked out, right? Just pumping with adrenaline. And after we kind of chilled out for like 5 minutes, I was like, bro, are we going to talk about what just happened? He's like, dude, did you hear that guy scream? I was like, yes, I heard it, bro. I heard it. It was from the kitchen. Like you weren't bullshitting. There was somebody in there. He's like, dude, I know. I heard it from the kitchen. Like it was there. And I was like, bro, but how? There was nobody in there. And like, guys, let me just stop for a sec. This house, right? So the way the kitchen was set up, there was an island, like an island table that was all rotted out and old and like, you know, just completely fucked up. There was a countertop and an old table, but there was nowhere you could go in that kitchen. Like there was just the kitchen and then the little dining area, and that was it. The only other way you could go was to the living room or the stairs, right? There was no like door someone could be hiding in, no bathroom, no like closet. Like there was a pantry, but it was completely filled up with garbage and rotted out. There was no way you could get in there. Plus, I could see the pantry from where I was when I fell with my light on. There was nobody in there. There was nobody in that kitchen. I'm telling you, like there was no one in that kitchen. There was no one hiding behind the island because we could see it. There was nobody in the pantry. There was nobody in that fucking kitchen, dude. Nobody. So I do not know how somebody could be in there screaming. And yeah, I was mind blown then, and I'm still mind blown to this day. I still can't wrap my head around it. I feel like it was only one of 2 things. One, there was a man in that house fucking with us, like creeping us out, and he was in a different room. Like maybe he somehow got in the basement and he was making noise down there. But I don't think that was the case because the noise was in the kitchen, very clearly in the kitchen. And the footsteps were very clearly in the living room. So I don't think there was any possibility he was in the basement with how clear these sounds sounded, right? And then option 2, there was a fucking ghost in there, bro. There was a fucking spirit messing with us. Now listen, guys, I am not spiritual, okay? I really don't believe in a lot of like the ghost shit. I really don't, okay? But when this happened, this and like a few other things, but specifically this, because it was like one of the first times I'd ever dealt with something like this, it low-key made me think like, oh, I think I'm wrong. I think spirits exist, and I think they're fucking with me. Anyway, back to the story, because it does not end there, okay? There's a lot more. So after me and him get to this convenience store, all right, and we're freaking out. We're trying to run through all these scenarios of what that could have been. We can't come to any conclusions, right? Like, we just don't know. We're just, like, mind-fucked. And after about 30 minutes of sitting in there and just, like, chilling, we decided it was time to go back to Joey's house. Because obviously we're not going back to that creepy house. We're not going to anything abandoned the rest of that night. We were just trying to go home and get some sleep and not think about the hell that just happened, right? So we leave the convenience store. We walk back to Joey's house. We sneak inside. At this point, it's very late at night. His parents were both asleep. We get inside very quietly. We lay down on like the couches. And within like 20 minutes, we both just knock out. We fall asleep. And of course, that night, coincidentally, I have one of the worst nightmares I've had in years. Like, I don't have nightmares very often, but when I get them, they are so fucked up and so vivid and so scary. And of course, the nightmare that I had on this night, I was back in that house and I was trying to escape it, but the window that we used to leave and get in was boarded shut, and there was this creepy demon-looking girl chasing me. And I couldn't get out of the house. That was the nightmare. And I remember I woke up in the middle of the night, fucking cold sweats, like shaking after the nightmare. And I looked around and I remember feeling so relieved that the nightmare was just a nightmare. And I wasn't actually in the house and I was at Joey's house and I was safe. And I remember like going back to sleep after that and thankfully not having another nightmare. To this day, I don't know what that nightmare meant. Once again, maybe there was a spirit fucking with me, okay? I don't know. But anyway, fast forward. I go back to sleep. The next day rolls around. I wake up to Joey's parents standing over me and Joey while we're laying on the couches. And Joey's dad goes, "Hey, you guys came back." And I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "Your mom's on the way to get you right now. You guys are both in a lot of trouble." And Joey wasn't awake yet. He was like still sleeping. And I was like, "Okay, sounds good." And Joey's dad's like, "Yeah, I called your mom last night after you guys ran away. And your mom said that you ran away from her house. So guess you lied to me when you said that you had permission to come here." And I was like, "Yeah, I did. I'm sorry." He's like, "Yep, whatever. Either way, you're in a lot of trouble with her." I'm like, "Yeah, I figured." He goes, "So where'd you go last night?" And I was like, "Just kind of walked around." He's like, "Yeah? Where'd you end up?" I was like, "Well, we went to that convenience store, and then we just kind of walked around for a while." I didn't tell him about the abandoned house because I just didn't think, he would believe me about what happened. And like a minute later, Joey wakes up, right? While I'm talking to his dad. And Joey starts talking to him. And Joey ends up telling his parents everything, like from where we went to the abandoned house, what happened there. And to my surprise, they were like really chill about it. I thought they were about to freak out and be like, "What the hell's wrong with you guys? Like, why would you go there? Like, that's dangerous." And while they were concerned and they did say like, "Don't ever do that again," and that it was really stupid, they weren't like freaking out at us. They were actually very calm. And Joey mentioned that like we kept hearing stuff, but nobody was there. And his mom was like, "Yeah, it's probably fucking haunted." And we all kind of laughed. But then she was like, "It probably was like a homeless person or something." And I was like, "Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, we looked and there was nobody in there." And she was like, "Well, in the future, just so you know, if you hear a noise somewhere and it's creepy, get the hell out of there. Why would you guys investigate it?" So even Joey's mom was like, "Are you guys fucking stupid? Like, don't go investigating creepy sounds." Anyway, so like 5 minutes later, my mom pulls up, right? She picks me up. I get taken home. I get grounded for like 3 months. I got all my shit taken away. It sucked, right? But believe it or not, the story time does not end there, okay? So like a month later, right? One day, I'm in school, and I'm at lunch with Joey and a couple other of our friends. And at this point, everything that had happened was already kind of like in the back of my head. I wasn't thinking much about it. All I thought was, wow, that was crazy. Can't wait to tell that on my YouTube channel, eventually. Can't wait to tell a story about it. Didn't think anything else could possibly happen. Okay. And I'm sitting there and we get on the topic at lunch about this abandoned house because a lot of my friends at the table had been there before with us. And we're talking about it. And me and Joey are talking about all the fucked up shit that happened when we were there last. And one of our friends at the table, let's call his friend Isaiah, okay? Isaiah was like, yo, after school today, when it's light out, we should go back there and investigate. And immediately I was like, hell no, I'm good on that. But for some reason, Joey was like about it. He was like, yes, bro, like, let's do it. Let's get in a big group. Let's go fucking ghost hunting. And I was like, dude, that is a terrible idea. He's like, nah, man, it's daytime. Like, we'll be fine. So after school that day, I don't know why I did this, like with the feeling I had, the gut feeling, but I did it. Me and all my friends, we linked up after school. We didn't even go home. We all just told our parents we were staying after school to like do work. And we went to that house, snuck in, and started investigating in the daytime, trying to look for signs of like paranormal activity or some shit, right? And this house, every window except one was boarded up. So it was always dark in there. Even in the daytime, it didn't make that much of a difference in terms of what you could see in there. But the good news was we all had our flashlights this time compared to like when I just had mine. So we all had our phone flashlights on. And one of my friends actually had like an actual flashlight that he kept in his locker. Don't know why, but he did. So he brought that with him. And we looked around and it just looked exactly like it looked when we were last in there. There was the same rooms. Nobody was in there but us. I even walked around the outside to the back and I checked the basement window and the basement window was still intact. So the only way to get in the basement was through that window. I don't think anybody would be down there. And then we walked back around, we looked, nothing, right? And just as we were about to leave, right? Like we were about to fucking leave, my friend comes downstairs, Isaiah, and he goes, yo, you guys got to see this. And I was like, oh no, what is this about to be? And we follow him upstairs and he leads me to one of the bedrooms, not the bedroom that me and Joey were in, but a different one. And he leads me into the bedroom. He opens the closet door of that bedroom and he points up at the ceiling. And on the ceiling, there is a boarded up entrance to the attic. And I was like, what about it? He's like, bro, I can pull that off and we can get up there. And I was like, okay. I didn't really see why it was necessary, right? Because it's like, dude, it's boarded off. No one's been up there in a long time. It's completely boarded up, right? Like, there's no way up there except through this one little hatch that is completely boarded. So like, it just didn't seem relevant to me. Like, what are we going to find up there? Probably a bunch of old bullshit that's all rotted and gross. And, you know, maybe a bunch of mold because it's in the attic and there's probably been water seeping through it. So I didn't think it was going to be worth going up there, but he grabs it, right? And he is able to rip this board off, like using all of his body weight and like his hands, he rips it off and he cuts himself on the board and like on a nail. And I was like, well, that's a tetanus shot. And he's like, yep, I'm going to the doctor after this. And I was like, yeah, good idea. And yeah, he pulls the board down and we can see up there to the attic. Like there's, you know, a clear path now. But the thing is, there's no ladder or anything. So we had to like get our friends upstairs to then lift us into the attic using their hands. And everybody got lifted up there by Isaiah. And he stayed down there and like kept watch while we explored. And let me tell y'all, when we got up there, I saw some shit I did not expect to see. Okay. Like I said earlier, I expected to see some like old belongings, maybe some mold, some old insulation, some rotted furniture, maybe. But we get up there and it was actually crazy how like intact this attic was. Like the rest of the house was all rotted and gross. And like there was obviously like signs of age up there. Like it was definitely like some spots where there was some leaks and some rotting wood and shit. But like compared to the rest of the house, it was actually in decent shape. I think the reason for that is because nobody had been up there in probably years because it was boarded off, right? But we get up there and it was a huge attic, right? And my friend immediately points to the back right corner and he goes, what the fuck is that? And in the back right corner, there is a bed, like on a bedstand, right? Like it's like an old little like twin bed, very old bed, with a bunch of candles surrounding it, not lit obviously, but a bunch of candles, like probably at least 20 to 30 candles, and some boxes set up next to it, like some boxes. And on the bed itself, there is blood. Not a lot, but there's drops of blood, whether it was from like someone having a nosebleed that was sleeping there or like maybe someone cut themselves. It was not a lot of blood, but there was a couple drops, enough to be creepy, right? And it was pretty clear that at one point, I'm not sure when, somebody was living up there. It must have been a long time ago because me and my friends had been in this house many times. And every time we were in that bedroom that had the attic entrance was boarded up. So my assumption is someone used to live up there And then they boarded it up when they were leaving to make sure no one went up there and messed with their, setup or whatever. And then they just never came back. But yeah, we never thought to go up there. We'd been in this house a lot of times. We'd always see that entrance, but it was boarded up. And we thought, yeah, let's just not mess with it. But given the recent situation and everything that happened and, not finding anything, Isaiah wanted to try and rip it down. And he did. And we went up there and we saw, the remnants of someone probably living there, which was pretty damn creepy. This old, rusty bed frame and this bed that was super old, this mattress with blood on it and candles surrounding it. It was creepy, man. It looked like some creepy shit you'd see in a movie. Anyway, after we were up there for about a minute looking at it, one of our other friends looked at me and he's like, bro, do you think that maybe someone up here was making noise? That's why you were hearing noises that day? And I look over at Joey and Joey's like, fuck no, dude. Those sounds were below us, not above us. And he was right. To this day, I remember those sounds very clearly. They were below us. We would know if they were above us because they'd be above us. Yeah, they were obviously below us. So whatever we found in the attic, I do not think correlated to what we experienced that night, me and Joey. But yeah, creepy shit, man. Very creepy shit. And that's pretty much where the story time ended. Shortly after that, we got the fuck out of there. We never went back. And to this day, I have not been back there. The house still exists. It's still standing. I don't want to go in there. I'm going to be honest, guys. It's the one place where I'm actually afraid of. But yeah, it's still around. It's pretty creepy. If I'm ever near it again someday, I will take a photo of it or a video and show y'all. But it's pretty creepy. Speaking of creepy, kind of side note, kind of getting off track here. But tomorrow, for my birthday, I'm going to an abandoned insane asylum and spending the night there with some friends and my brother. It's going to be pretty interesting. And I'm bringing my camera, so if anything happens, this time I'll be able to tell a story with video. I'm hoping nothing happens. I'm hoping that it's just, kind of boring and we walk through it and it's fine. But if anything does happen, I will have my camera. Since we're on the topic of abandoned stuff, I want to bring that up. We also have permission to spend the night there. We're not breaking in or sneaking in like I would do in the past when I was a kid. This is we're actually going there and we set this up. So yeah, it should be pretty interesting. Anyway, yeah, I just wanted to bring that up while I was on the topic of abandoned stuff and spooky stuff. So yeah. But yeah, guys, that's the story. I hope you all enjoyed it. Really crazy one in my opinion, really interesting one, very spooky one. Thought it fit the October vibe well. So if you guys enjoyed this story time, please leave a like on the video. I'd really appreciate it. Feel free to leave your story times in the comments down below and subscribe if you're new. I'll see you all later. Peace.